Is the speed horse, but as we've already seen today, no problem in coming from behind on this racetrack. Dan Kenny, what about the French Invader Petit Loup?
This horse, Brian, as a 3-year-old, was thought so little of that he was sent to Spain. I mean, that is the bush leagues of European racing. He turned out to be the champion in Spain. And in talking with Cricket Head, she said, admittedly, he is not a top horse. But if he runs against a top horse and a top horse makes a mistake, he'll come and get him. I like this horse very, very much. He has a lot of presence, just like White Muzzle.
Well, the defending champion in this race is Husband. Jim Bannon, he had some problems coming into the race last year, wasn't feeling that well, and really hasn't had a great year this year.
No, he was running a temperature at race time last year, but he seemed to relish the soft going, and he just ate it up to win it rather easily. This year he's had problems. He wrapped an ankle earlier in the year. He's had a touch of colic, but he hasn't run now since May, so that's a long time to be away. But what being away brings to you is freshness at this time of year, and while some horses could be over the top, this horse should have his best in front of him, but it will be interesting to see how he handles the firm footing.
André Fabre won this race with French Glory in 1990. Dan Kenny, you said it earlier, you never count out a Fabre-trained horse.
No, indeed. He would never send the plane fare without a horse who's live. This is a very typical European-looking horse. Light-framed, very lanky, not a terribly impressive specimen, but he's got one of the great pedigrees in the world by Rainbow Quest out of a marvelous mare named Suntrap by Roberto. So I think if you're playing exactas and trifectas, whatever, in the simulcast, it'd be very dangerous to leave this horse out.
Well, there's a 3-year-old Canadian filly. There is a 7-year-old Canadian gelding, Jim. He is back again.
This was Canada's champion older horse last year on the strength of his second in this particular race, Brian. He's a horse that kicks in well through the stretch, and he grabbed second money with that same type of drive last year. He's had very, very little activity this year, so very much like some of the other horses in the race, he's fresh at this point. The question is whether he is good enough. This is a record 5th consecutive run in this race for Cozine's Prince.
Here is Volashine. Now, Dan Kenny, there's a connection because we look back to the E.P. Taylor earlier today.
Well, Collet has got a fabulous international record. Chris McCarron, sitting there on Volashine, has won 4 races out of 4 rides today. Chris is a Hall of Famer through and through. He takes to any new situation, a new course. He was brilliant. He's won on the dirt. And with 119 pounds and Lasix for the first time, I watched this horse gallop. He looked very smart in the morning.
Dan, one quick question. We're going to bring up the odds. Great helicopter shot. Dan Kenny, answer me if you will. He's running on latex. Volashine is for the first time. How important is that?
Well, it can be vitally important. If a horse is bleeding, they're choking and can't get their air, and it will sometimes have a calming effect on a horse. And I've seen numerous instances, as has Jim, where a horse the first time will show a much improved race, and it wouldn't take much improvement for Volashine to be a factor.
So it's the lone American horse at 41-1. That is Dinner in Rio. We'll be back with a post parade as we continue live from Woodbine. Great shot of this new course. It is spectacular.
Six times a day, 38 times a week, nearly 2,000 times a year. No airline brings Canada closer to Asia than Canadian. Now with service to Shanghai. Better schedules, better destinations. That's how the people of Canadian are building a better airline.
Get 6.9% no-limit financing on 4Runner, now until October 31st.
It's for everyone who wants rewards that can add up automatically to bonus savings on your long distance. It's the Real Plus Long Distance Savings Plan from Bell, and bonus rewards are only part of it.
With the combined savings features of Real Plus, Bell lets you save like we never have before.
Like Doug Johnston, who will save $185 in 1 year.
This is like getting 3 free months every year.
It's the Real Plus Long Distance Savings Plan from Bell.
Our best savings plan ever.
By 5 years old, I had decided to become a concert pianist.
2 short films about Glenn Gould. Tonight at 8 on CBC.
Back live at Woodbine, the helicopter pilot today is David Tomasini of Four Seasons Aviation, and the camera operator got us those great shots of the opening of the show and is taking the shots right now is Derek Losey from Westcam Equipment. Jim, 2 great names in Canadian racing passing away this year. Bud Wilmot in January, a couple of months ago. Art Stollery, of course, Bud Wilmot ran King Haven. Art Stollery at Kennedy Road, foaled up at Angus Glen. Angus Glen will be a new spectacular golf course opening next year. But there's an interesting story David Wilmot was relating about the 2 families finally getting together.
That's right, and they have a great horse called Talking Man from the first crop of With Approval, and he won the Grey Stakes the other day and looks like the best 2-year-old in Canada and could be on his way to the Breeders' Cup.
Well, the purse today is more than $1 million. Let's show you how it breaks down. The winner just over $600,000, and the 5th place horse winning just over $30,000. I mentioned Lacex in talking with Dan Kenny regarding Volasheen. In all 4 horses on Lacex today, Alley Wow the filly, Volasheen, Cozine's Prince, and the American Invader, Dinner in Rio. Now the 9-horse field coming out onto the dirt track here at Woodbine, and again this is the only track in North America where the dirt track is inside of the turf or grass facility. It is really unique to North American racing. And Jim, let's run down this field, beginning with the number 1 horse, the Lone Filly.
Well, she's great, Brian. She's won 5 of 6, only a tough turf in New York beat her. She's come back here. She's thriving. She's a great homebred. I think she has her future right in front of her here today. I would be disappointed if she didn't at least get in the money.
Now, there is one other 3-year-old in this race, and I'll tell you, 3-year-olds have been very, very tough this year in Europe. The 3-year-old I'm talking about is Volasheen, ridden by Chris McCarron.
Well, if you look at the Arc, of course, the horse called Carnegie won that, a 3-year-old. We had the great filly earlier in the year, Balasheen, another 3-year-old, Turtle Island, King's Theater, all great 3-year-olds, and this horse is part of that good crop.
Well, off in the distance there, you see the number 3 horse, Cozine's Prince. Hey, if you don't succeed, you simply try again.
This horse was much darker when he first started running in this race 5 years ago, and he's much lighter now. Horses will do that. Believe me, Brian, this horse is getting so old, I think they have to dunk his hay.
All right. We mentioned the fact that Urgent Request, the speed horse, the number 4 horse, is a bit rank. He is off by himself and not part of the post parade. So number 4 is the lone speed horse in this race, Urgent Request. Number 5, the defending champion, is Husband, and again the last back-to-back winner in this event, George Royal, back in 65 and 66.
He was a surprise when he won it last year, and he would be a surprise again this year. But what a pedigree he's got. He's from the same family as Simply Majestic and another good horse called Al Wahoosh, and he does have pedigree and freshness.
Here's a good middle distance horse, Jim.
Yes, this horse comes with all kinds of credentials, and you could see that there was great talk about the horse coming into the race. They were very happy with his presence in the paddock. And this horse comes in from Maryland, interestingly enough. They just had some big races there this weekend, but this horse is shipped the other way.
And there's a look at the lone American entry, Dinner in Rio.
And this is what the horse that we just said has come from Maryland. He's a horse with actually great history. He was claimed for $50,000. And he's going for a purse of $606,000 today, Brian.
Here's the favorite, the 3-year-old of the year, last year in Europe.
Well, I had a good talk with him yesterday. I was over at the stables, and this horse is absolutely just thriving. He's looking around. This long stretch at Woodbine should give him every chance to get out of any trouble he may encounter.
And the number 9 horse, and here's a horse that loves to run all day.
Actually, 1.5 miles is rather short for this horse, Brian. He'd rather be going 2 miles, but he's sent out by trainer André Fabre, champion French trainer. And he's got great connections, Robbie Davis in the irons, and look for this horse very late.
Let me ask you about the Deauville connection. Husband went directly from that race last year to win the Rothmans. This horse, Raintrap, comes directly from the Grand Prix de Deauville this year. White Muzzle was in it, but went to the Arc after. Could be interesting.
That's very, very important, because Husband was 3rd in it last year, came here to win this year. It was taken by the favorite in this particular race, with Raintrap 4th, and they're both in here, and we're looking now at the horse that was parading all by himself, Urgent Request. He seems to be well named, the urgent part anyway.
Well, a rank horse here this afternoon and a speed horse. Let's go down to Dan Loisel. Dan? Or Dan Kenny, excuse me.
Brian, Brian, one further note on Husband. In talking with John Fellows, his trainer, when I showed up in town, I said, John, this doesn't look like the same horse. He said, I want you to remember, he was a May 31st foal last year as a 3-year-old. He's grown 2 inches, probably added 100 pounds. Despite the layoff, he might run pretty well. But you know what international horse racing is like? If people are game enough to ship across the Atlantic, they must think something pretty strong about their chances. So during the course of the week, we had a chance to talk to a lot of the trainers about their entrance in this year's Rothmans.
He looked like the turf, you know. He's ran all time in turf. You know, in Europe you haven't got any dirt, you know. You haven't got any dirt, so they ran all time on the turf, and he liked that because they learn, you know, they learn on the turf. So he's got a nice mover. And this morning I told you he's worked on the dirt and turf, and he's looked pretty good. He's got a nice mover, nice looking. I told you before, he's perfect. I can't do better. We came here to win. I hope we're going to win, you know.
Well, Husband's grown about 2 inches, or close to it, since last year. He lacked a lot of maturity, which now he's caught up with. He's a bigger, stronger horse. And even though he hasn't had a race before, last year he won nevertheless with almost 2 months layoff. And he's as well as I can get him.
He's rather a sparely made horse, and he doesn't need a great deal of work to get into condition. I'm expecting him to run a big race. He's a front runner. He's inclined to be rather excitable. But apparently he's travelled well. The chap that's with him is very delighted, with no complaints. And I'm expecting it to run a big race.
He's a wonderfully smart horse. Cousin's Prince is one of the smartest horses I've ever been around, which is always fun. The only difficult part is to keep his training interesting enough for him, and so that he doesn't get too bored with the same old routine.
It's a 9-horse field. 6 minutes to post. We'll return live to Woodbine in Toronto and the Rothmans International right after this.
My life. Here's the starting gate right behind me. This is where the horses will be starting from. Now I want to give you a sense of just how close the people are to it. Literally, if they swung wide in the finish, they could reach out and touch. And believe me, they're going to be shouting all sorts of instructions to the jockeys, whether they like them or not like them, but they'll catch all the action. It's like being behind home plate at the baseball game, under the hoop at a basketball game. You can't get closer than this, Brian.
All right, Terry, we're one level above you, and I tell you what, the fans are about 2 feet away from our microphones. You may hear them during the race. Let's take a look at the odds, Jim.
Aliwa at 6-1, and finally some money here for Urgent Request. He's the speed horse. He was acting up a little bit. Will be important to see how he comes up behind the gate if he settles. But he's the speed horse and the one to catch. Some of the others, Petit Lou is really taking money now, 5-2. He looked good going out on the post parade. He's looked good in behind the starting gate. White Muzzle, who was 4-5, has now moved up to 6-5, so he will pay slightly more than $4 if he wins. And Raintrap, boy, shouldn't leave this horse at too long odds with André Fabre, the trainer.
White Muzzle is the favorite. Now, going back to 1975, 17 horses have come from the Arc de Triomphe to the Rothmans. Only 2 have won here. Youth in 76, all along in 83. And, of course, White Muzzle comes from the Arc here in 1994. There's the American horse, horse number 7, Dinner in Rio.
And right in front of him is White Muzzle. You can't mistake that horse. But Dinner in Rio is a horse that was claimed for $50,000. A great story. He's already won 4 races and a few stakes. And here we see Walter Swinburne now on Petit Lou, a horse that is acting very well coming to the gate. Look at, he's just bucking and squealing. He's got his ears up. You can just see almost in the lens that shot that we're getting from Chris Elias. His eye is sparkling. He's ready to go. He's shaking his head. Let's go. He's full of himself.
Talk to me about race strategy with this long home stretch dictating a very different type of horse race.
The worst thing you can do on this course, Brian, it's 1.5 miles once around, and that's to move too early and be midway up the stretch and run out of gas. So you really have to be able to conserve your energy. Here is White Muzzle. The way he likes to run is close up to the pace under a strong gallop. So if Urgent Request is our leader, we wouldn't want this horse to be any more than maybe 5 lengths off that horse and under a good gallop and on the bridle and in the clear when he comes to the stretch, unlike what happened to him in the Arc.
And there's the 3-year-old Canadian filly, Aliwao, with Dave Penna up. Sandy Hawley told me a couple of weeks ago, he said, the great thing about this course is you don't have to make your move on a turn. You can wait, and the turn is banked, Jim, as we're going up to Dan Loisel in just a minute, but I think that's very important to mention, too. They really spring off that turn if they're on the outside.
Yes, it's like a bicycle track. Once you get up there, you can push off and gain maybe a length or two at the top of the stretch. Cozine's Prince coming in behind. Well, he's been here before 5 times, so he may have an experience edge on these. But look at him. He's happy, this horse. He's in great health. His ears are up. He's ready for the challenge, and a great shot of the horse is going right up to the wire now where the gate will be. And, of course, they'll have one revolution of this magnificent strip of ribbon, and it will be a great stretch run, Brian. They have 60 jumps from the time they come to the top of the stretch to the wire, and a lot will happen late in this race.
Well, the horse is beginning to load. You had a shot from the helicopter of the roof. Up on the roof is the voice of Canadian thoroughbred racing, Danny Loisel. Urgent Request, a little rank, maybe late going in. Dan Loisel, you've called races on this course before. It's your first national telecast. I know you've been looking forward to this one for a long, long time.
Brian, I sure have, and what a dramatic scene it is. I can almost reach out and touch the horses, and as the horses were coming down the stretch toward the gate, something I've never heard at Woodbine in 8 years here, the public yelling out instructions to the riders, just a real dramatic turn of events as they head towards the starting gate, and we're looking at Dinner in Rio right there. One of the long shots in here is 37-1, ridden by Michael McCarthy, the lone U.S. representative. Petit Loup now walking into the gate for Walter Swinburne. Petit Loup in the blue and white colors of Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum. We wait on White Muzzle, the favorite at even money, and one more to load after White Muzzle, and that'll be Raintrap. Raintrap owned by the Judmont Farms, ridden by Robbie Davis out of Post 9. Raintrap, a winner of last year's Group 1 Prix-Royal Oak at Longchamp. The last horse to load, he's somewhat reluctant. André Fabre trains this son of Rainbow Quest. The assistant starters are very versed at this sort of thing. They'll persuade him, I'm sure. Raintrap is 18-1. The field of 9 just about loaded. Getting some more assistant starters to give Raintrap a bit of a push into the gate. And they're loaded. They're at the post. They're off in the Rothmans International. Voloshin broke a step slowly. Aliwao broke well, and Urgent Request, as expected, goes right to the front for Gary Stevens. It's Urgent Request on the lead. Aliwao hugging the rail in second. On the outside, Cozine's Prince is third. Petit Loup is fourth. White Muzzle well placed in fifth, and they've started that gradual uphill climb to the backstretch. On the front end, it's Urgent Request. Cozine's Prince is on the outside. White Muzzle is well placed, and Urgent Request is loose on the lead and opens up 9 lengths as they head to the backstretch. Cozine's Prince is second. Aliwao is third, Petit Loup is fourth, and Voloshin is fifth. Then White Muzzle, Raintrap, Husband, and Dinner in Rio, and Urgent Request leads this field through a half in 24-2, half a mile in 49-1. A painless half mile for Urgent Request, and he leads it by 7 lengths. Cozine's Prince is second. Voloshin starts to improve toward the rail. Voloshin takes over second now. Cozine's Prince is third. Petit Loup is fourth. Aliwao is fifth. White Muzzle is sixth, back about 9 lengths off the lead. Then Husband, Raintrap, and Dinner in Rio. 3/4 in 13-3. They run toward the far turn, just about 5 furlongs to run on the Rothmans International. Urgent Request, the field moving on him now. Here comes Voloshin, Petit Loup, and White Muzzle is geared up for John Reed on the far outside as they sweep into the far turn. Urgent Request by just over a length. Petit Loup is now second to the inside. Voloshin is third. White Muzzle is fourth. Aliwao is a tight fifth. Husband moves into contention on the outside from sixth. Urgent Request has a little left with 3/8 to go. It's Urgent Request by 2.5 lengths. Voloshin well placed. On the outside is White Muzzle, and Husband's going to make his presence felt, and they come to the top of the stretch, the longest stretch on the continent, and Husband's forging on the outside. Husband's coming on to challenge for the lead. Voloshin asked for his best by Chris McCarron on the outside. Aliwao is putting in a run. It's Husband on the inside, Urgent Request, Voloshin, Raintrap, Aliwal working hard on the far outside. 5 of them coming to the wire. Raintrap wins the Rothmans International. Canada's Aliwal second. A 3-horse photo to show. What a race and what a course, Brian and Jim. Raintrap sent through between horses by Robbie Davis in the final 1/8 of a mile to win the Rothmans International. The running time 2:25 3/5.
Dan Loisel, in speaking with Dan Kenny earlier, I said never count out an André Fabre trained horse. He won here with French Glory in 1990, second with Panoramic in 91, second with Wiorno in 92. He was later disqualified. He's also been 10th and 4th. It is Raintrap winning the 1994 Rothmans Limited International, a 4-year-old chestnut colt from France, ridden this afternoon by Robbie Davis.
Well, Brian, as you could see, that race took on many complexion changes. In the early going, as we see right now, as we expected, Urgent Request had the lead, but earlier in the E.P. Taylor Stakes, Dahlia's Dreamer from New York had squandered a similar 8 or 9 length lead, so horses coming from off the pace had plenty of time to catch up. We have about a half mile to go at this point, and Urgent Request is still the leader, but stalking this horse and maybe moving just a shade earlier. Some of the horses in the second flight, we see White Muzzle there, 3 wide in the second flight, but waiting farther back on the outside is Husband. He made a move as if, man, this could be his day. But watch in the middle of your screen, and splitting horses just about at this point from about 5th spot is going to be the eventual winner, Raintrap for Juddmonte Farms and André Fabre. Brian, this was a picture painting coming through the stretch with about an 1/8 of a mile to go. We had any one of 5 horses that could have won it at this point. And right between horses, 2 from the outside, driving a great ride by Robbie Davis to get there marginally. Spoiled the day for Aliwal, but made Canadian history on this course. A great finish.
And how about the Deauville connection I mentioned earlier? Husband came from that race to win last year. Raintrap does it here in 94.
You've got it. And watch for the horse in the pink cap now, finding his way between horses. He wedges himself. He's now left of your screen, 4 out. On his immediate right in the blue with the white face, we have another horse challenging nearest the rail, Urgent Request, who was tiring. Petite Lou is in there, but the horse in the pink cap is Raintree, and to its outside on the left is Dave Penna and Aliwal. A great finish for Canada, a great finish for horse racing.
Raintrap, trained by France's all-time leading horseman, André Fabre. Jim Bannon was definitely pointed to this race. He was freshened after a 4th place finish to White Muzzle in the Grand Prix de Deauville and has been training extremely well at Chantilly near Paris.
Well, the long stretch did it, I think, Brian. When you talk about André Fabre, horses like Carnegie, of course, won the Arc de Triomphe for this trainer. He had a big day yesterday in the Dubai Champion Stakes with Dernier Ferme, and of course it just goes on. He had the unlucky event here of Wiorno losing this event through disqualification, but he got his revenge.
Well, there's Terry Leibel. Terry, take it away.
Thanks very much, Brian. Robbie Davis, what a stretch drive by Raintrap.
He really ran a hard race. This is my first time riding him. I just like to thank Mr. Fabre, Mr. Bobby Frankel for letting me ride him.
Talk about the turf course. We've been talking about it all day long. What did you think of it?
I've never seen anything like it in my life. It's so pretty. It really is. It was just a great pleasure to ride over it and be able to win over it the first time out.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Brian?
All right, Terry, it is the 4-year-old chestnut colt, Raintrap, winning. Aliwal second, a photo for third. Hang on, lots more to come. A great afternoon here at Woodbine. We're back live after this.